Hello everyone, my name is Kalvan with the number of my student ID 2107050 and 66, and in this video today I'm going to explain about what is the International Phonetic Alphabets and Generative Phonology for my video representation of phonetics and phonology. So first of all, before we enter the International Phonetic Alphabets, we will look at this. What is the phonemic chart? It is a tool commonly used to help learners understand and produce the sounds in English pronunciation. And the phonemic chart is the simplified version of the International Phonetic Alphabet. Now look at this table and charts that are the currently used International Phonetic Alphabet. And this chart has been revised through years and years, or maybe decades, before it was the complete, or you can say before it have been stated as the International Phonetic Alphabet. So you can say it has been revised through years, so this is the final version that have been recognized by the world. And we can see here, before into that, let's look at the history of IPA, or International Phonetic Alphabets. It was first created in 1886 by a group of French and British language teachers led by a French linguist, Paul Pesci, which he will form a group known as the International Phonetic Association, and this group will be the one who responsible for the changes of the phonetic alphabets, International Phonetic Alphabets. So look at here, there are lots of their alphabets that have been revised, and this one's here has been revised to 2005. There's 1, 2. The alphabet has undergone a number of revisions during its history, but the most significant of changes will be proposed at the Kiel Convention in 1989, and this convention will have a great impact on the International Phonetic Alphabets. So we will look at this. The division of the alphabet above is the earliest alphabet in the world of phonetics. The languages that are used, namely English, French, and German. And you can look at this. They created 6 principles for this International Phonetic Alphabets. Number 1, there should be a separate sign for its distinctive sound, and that is for a sound which being used instead of another in the same language can change the meaning of word. Number 2, when any sound is found in several languages, the same sign should be used in all. This applies also to very similar sets of sound. Number 3, the alphabet should consist as much as possible of the ordinary letters of the Roman alphabet, as few new letters as possible being used. In assigning values to the Roman letters, international users should decide. Number 5, the new letters should be suggestive of the sounds they represent by their resemblance to the old ones. Number 6, diacritic marks should be avoided, being trying for the eyes and troublesome to write. And that is the 6 principles that the International Phonetics Association have declared for the International Phonetic Alphabets. Then in the 1890s, it also expanded to cover sounds of the other languages such as the Arabic and non-European languages which do not easily fit in the Latin alphabet, because as we know, those other languages alphabet is quite different from the Latin ones, where Latin ones are simple, such as ABCD, and the other languages, for example, is the Asian country like Korean, Japan, and China, and their alphabet is quite different from the Latin ones. So we can see here there are few changes. I'll fast up a bit because our time is so little, and you can see here there are a lot of changes, a lot of phonemic alphabets that I have been added by them. And then they also release a lot of books that mention the word phoneme. Yeah, they also started to see other other functions which will affect the phonetic alphabets, such as the fricates, length of stress and pitch, the modifiers and the others. So they decided to revise it again, making modifications on the chart, deleting something, adding something, and that's how it is. Then there's also a few changes that were approved in 1976, as we can see here. And then after that, you can see here there's a lot of changes created by the International Phonetic Associations. Moving on to the consonants, here are some of the consonants that were, and then there's also suprasegmentals and the others. And here are the important thing, where the council will decide a meeting, or also known as the Kiel Convention, where it will change a lot of the international phonetic alphabets, and they revise it a lot and a lot, creating something. As you can see here in the updated chart, which was published 1999, and then there also in the books that was released in the same year. You can see here there are still a lot of changes, even though it has been so. Moving on, and here are the last phonetic alphabets that have been revised, and this is the final form of it for the international phonetic alphabets. And the huge changes was because the Kiel Convention. So yeah, I think that's all for IPA. Moving on to generative phonology, it is founded by Noam Chomsky and Maurice Hale in the late of 1950s. A brief introduction: it is a branch of generative linguistics that determines the underlying set of rules governing the pronunciation of words in a person's native language. So it affects the set of pronunciation in a person's native language. So it affects its mother tongue. And here we can see generative phonology explanation. I'm going to skip that because we don't have a lot of time, as I said earlier. And to get better of understanding of generative phonology, you guys can look at this generative grammar model of language that I have show to you guys. Then there's also a few components of generative phonology. Here you can see the rules, the types, assimilation rules, deletion rules, and insertion, and formal properties of generative rules. And here are the important thing: derivation. This is the important thing in generative phonology. As you can see here, for example, the word impossible, that was being derivated. That's all.